good afternoon. Thanks for having me, thanks for inviting me. Sorry for being a bit late in the afternoon. My name is Pieter Kubben. I work as a neurosurgeon in a Maastricht University Medical Hospital. You see a second line, I started developing mobile apps and being a little bit of whiz kid in the department during my residency, which resulted in a combined staff function as a neurosurgeon and e-health, mobile health. So I can't help looking at a combined medical and IT perspective. Interestingly, hearing the previous speaker, my PhD was on intraoperative MRI for glioblastoma surgery, and I really think that getting this last piece of tumor out is nonsense. Because of the major studies which have been published about this have some methodology flaws, which, if you look closely at them, may differ your perspective on the final conclusion. The main goal, take-home message of my talk will be actually kind of similar for stereotactic assisted, for robotic assisted stereotactic neurosurgery, because that's what I'm talking about now. Next slide, please. Can I? Which button?
Yeah,
Sorry, yes, all right. Before I start, I don't have anything to report like a conflict of interest, and you will see why I mentioned this in the next slide, because there will be some brands showing up. When I'm talking about stereotaxy, for people not familiar with the term, stereotaxy is actually just a 3D coordinate system which we use for highly accurate procedures in the brain, or actually somewhere else if you would like to. Stereotactic procedures are mostly frame-based, if we talk about them, but actually they could be frameless, which means if you take a regular neuronavigation device, anything which is working with coordinates in a 3D space for navigation purposes, you could call stereotaxy. Mostly it's about the frame-based system, and then there are many sorts of frames actually which you could use. The one we use in our hospital is the Lexcel frame, which looks like this. So you have actually a frame itself mounted to the head of the patient, which is, I don't have any pointer, but it's the one around the head. And then you make a scan with this one, and then you put an arc on it. You see the arc in the image, which you actually use for the precise targeting. The target itself is defined as the X, Y, and Z coordinates, and to get a straight line, you need a second point actually. This one works with a direction, so the ring and the arc. This is your 2 degrees of freedom which you have left. If you have these two fixed, you have 5 coordinates actually, and these determine your trajectory. So this is what we work with. Clinical applications for stereotactic procedures in neurosurgery are mainly the brain stimulation, stereotactic EEG or depth electrodes, and biopsies. Yes, you could do endoscopy, but mostly I find this is actually quite a broad coverage of the mostly used applications. So these are the ones I will be focusing on. Now, if we talk about replacing the frame by a robotic arm, for this particular focus, you mainly have 2 big names which come up. The first one, the company used to be called MedTech, it's now Zimmer Biomet, and the product is Rosa. Rosa is a French company, and pink is actually the main color, so if you remember pink, you'll recognize it easily. And they cover these applications which I just mentioned. So the brain stimulation, SEEG, depth electrodes, biopsies. Yes, you can do endoscopy if you have a specific holder, but mostly it's about this. It's a standalone device. You get your own planning computer. You could import planning coordinates from a different software environment. For example, if you're working with Medtronic or BrainLab for navigation, you could also plan in there if you're more comfortable with this software, and then at least manually import the coordinates in the robotic system. The second one, you just remember orange and you have the next color, it's from a British company, Renishaw. They have the Neuromate. Well, if I would be a representative of the company, I would try to persuade you with what one robot is more than the other one. Actually, looking as a neurosurgeon, I think they're rather similar. Yes, there are some subtle differences. Overall, it's not that big that I think you need to have a specific preference for the one or the other. Actually, the only thing which you should keep into account, if you mount the frame to the head of the operating table, you have the table and just the frame here. behind you can walk freely around. If you mount one of these robotic arms, if you have the ROSA, especially if you're a male surgeon, this is important, you have a fixation to the table here. And if you take the neuromate, it's on the floor, so you need to be able to step, to watch careful to step over or you will just fall. So there are some actually ergonomic issues when introducing a robotic arm. It also takes away some other issues which you have with the frame. So again, this is about SEEG and how the robotic arm is used. The kind of procedures which both companies are focusing on are rather similar. The third one, not mentioned in this presentation because it's still under construction, the double ENS conference in April, BrainLab expects to show their robotic arm, which can also be used for stereotactic procedures. So if you're looking at something, at least wait until the double ENS before you go to your director's board, because it may be interesting. So now if we have this robotic arm, we have this expensive piece of equipment in our operating room, how do we compare if it actually has added value, and what kind of added value are you looking at? You could look at increased accuracy, you could look at decreased time maybe, you could also look at ergonomic perspectives, but mostly when studies are done, and there are not so many, well, at least decent quality studies, I wouldn't even call them high quality, mostly look at accuracy. Now, how do you measure accuracy? To start, all of these studies take Euclidean distance, which means we have a point where we actually wanted to be. This was the intended target. You have a post-op CT or MRI. CT is better. And you see your actual target. This is all in 3D. So you could actually draw a line from where you wanted to be to where you actually are with the tip of your electrode lead biopsy needle, and see how well you performed. Now, the next thing is, how are you going to call this? You have accuracy and precision. You have two Dutch words on the top of the slide, which is nice for tonight's dinner. You can do some Dutch language. These are quite important to distinguish, because otherwise you don't know what you're talking about, and they really have a different meaning. And I think this graph actually shows it rather well. The thing we are interested in, at least I'm interested in, is accuracy. I want to be somewhere. How close was I? The thing which is also important, but to me less interesting, is precision, because I could be quite off, as you see at the right upper corner, but if I have all my mistakes, to call it that way, located closely together, I still have high precision. But if I had to choose between high precision with lower accuracy, or high accuracy with lower precision, I go for the high accuracy. So that's quite important to know. Now, you have the studies, and as you see, they already mix up, because they say precision, but if you read the article, what Cardinale measured is accuracy. So it's kind of a funny thing to remember. So now you see here, I mean, the study has been published, but this is the brochure from Renishaw, because they took the effort to make a nice table. So yes, the robot does better. And if you look at the, you need to look here. Yes, exactly. I just want to be sure before I start talking about this one. You see there is overlap in the range of values, so I wouldn't be so sure to say that the robotic arm is absolutely better. At least there is a tendency that it's better, and yes, it's shorter. And that's actually the thing which you will see, because if we go to the competitor, another study from the Gonzalez group using the ROSA robot, you see the only thing which is significant is they're faster. And now you could say, well, maybe you have a different way of doing things, different processes. I don't know. Actually, I saw both with the Renishaw robot and the Matic robot. I saw a procedure, and where we do with the frame about 10 minutes for each electrode, with both robots it went down to literally 5 minutes or less with the robotic arm, because you don't have to manually put in all these coordinates. So yes, I do believe that time gain is something which is also present in real world. So you see this reflected by significancy. If you look at accuracy, here it's mentioned correctly, you see it's not significant. And also in the last study actually, which has been done, these are the only 3 decent studies which I could find to date actually, I rechecked this week. You also see here there is a little bit of overlap, so again there is a tendency that the robotic arm may be more accurate, but I wouldn't be able to say for sure. So we did a systematic review in our hospital. It's being prepared for submission, and also here you see the same conclusion actually which I just mentioned. There is a tendency that the robotic arm is more accurate. I wouldn't say there is any proof or evidence that the robotic arm is more accurate. And that would also be my take-home message. What I learned from my PhD, when the interruptive MRI arrived in the surgical rooms, we got it in 2005, it was introduced around 1997. You saw a lot of papers like, okay, and this is kind of neurosurgeon style of writing papers. I have a new toy, I'm happy with it, and I'm going to write about it because I want you to know I have a new toy. And this is what I did with it, which is valuable for the first papers. I think we saw them. But the next one, I think, needs to look more critical actually at maybe comparing the frame and the robotic arm, do a methodologically more sound analysis of what's going on, because this is expensive equipment. And although I do believe that there's truly added value, and even a time gain with the same accuracy could be added value by using a robotic arm, I wouldn't be, well, actually going confident going outside and going to the director's board and saying, we went to a conference, we learned robotic arm for stereotactic neurosurgery, must have, because I think it's also a matter of prestige and personal preference. And that's actually the main message I wanted to share with you. Are there any questions?